Just
Sorry.
just a sec. Okay. So the live streaming is on. That was. Did you all hear that?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you heard it.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Here, Melissa, is the now the YouTube connection that says it's live. So hopefully that works. It might not be the same one as the one that I shared. That's the thing. So
it's done an emoji.
It's done an emoji. Oh, that's weird. Okay.
It's just like double brackets / isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
Do you want me to put that on the e-stitches?
Yeah, because that's supposed to be where the live stream lives, I think. And we're supposed to be live, apparently. So I'm just double checking. And
you went live for a moment.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not live now?
No. It was
because
like 9 seconds.
I think because that was just me, right? It was just me, because I think it was YouTube just doing me.
Yes.
And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do all of us straight from Jitsi. So that's why I had to get this key. So this should be, I'm going to try it in a new window and make sure that that works. It might not. It's hard to do a live stream when you're not, to test a live stream when you're not live streaming. So it's supposed to be doing it now. It says we've currently got.
Yeah, we refresh.
Ah, there we go. Something's happening. So.
I'm not sure I can do anything with that link.
Okay, I'll keep trying to get the other link. I think we are live somewhere. Because it says we are, but I just don't know if we have anybody to watch that. So let me just try to find that link. And stream URL, that's what it says the stream URL is. Double check.
Nice rainbow, Troy.
There we go. Thanks, I'm in the nursery since I have all the kids downstairs. So I love how it keeps flying out of my head.
So hopefully I'll get this sorted in a second. I just have to open yet another window, and then I will give that to you, Melissa. Because apparently that link that we had doesn't work now.
When we go live, should we just do very quick introductions first?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Sorry that I was late joining. Maybe already.
No, it's fine. Well, all I said was that I won't do a fancy intro because I don't know what everyone's doing in their lives. I'll just say this is what we're here for, and then we will. I'll hand it over to you. And just give me one more second. I'm just trying to find the link to the channel that's going live or is live.
I think we're already
apparently. Live. We are live. I'm just trying to find where we're live and how we're live. Let's find out where is the live channel. Sorry guys. I couldn't really test this, so this is unfortunately our test. And I will hopefully find it in a second. Manage videos, there it is. Had it open, but somehow it got lost again.
Is someone at the beach?
Pardon me?
Is anyone at the beach? Because I hear like this.
Yeah.
No.
That might be my computer.
Is this my wishful thought? Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Live now. Okay, so we are live. I'll just get the link. And anybody watching out there, I don't think you are, but if you are, apologies. Let me find this Here it is. Now try this one, Melissa. There we go. And great. Okay, so as soon as she manages to get that on Facebook, I will do an intro. So you let me know, Melissa, when you've got it there. And we can pretty much start any time. So I will formally say thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This is a panel commemorating and honoring the work and life of Valerie Lamontage. I have a lovely group of people who knew her in various capacities and friends, and each will speak about that relationship in terms of the work and in terms of the friendship. I want to emphasize that I want to elevate and showcase the amazing contributions she made to e-textiles and fashion tech and wherever that's going, smart materials and art and design practice, and want to widen out the community who understand and know who she is after she has unfortunately passed October 4th, 2019. And I don't think we did establish an order, but we will start with Meg Grant and Anya. You might have to pronounce your last name for me. So how about you folks take over and talk about your relationship with Valerie?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks for running this talk with Anya over the last few days about Valerie and about her work. We met her, I think, in
2010 or 2012, something like this, at V2. Neck is in the loop. Yeah, we met at V2. She was doing like a research for her PhD, and it was actually during an evening with Melissa and
that she had done on Hodan, and so I wanted to sort of start talking about how looking at her work online, finding the work that she'd done with Hodan, which are these fantastical dresses about a fairy tale. That I think Anya might have an image there of them. Yeah, these sort of like princess dresses that just were actuated and had sensors and just super ambitious project. When I found these online, I just thought, wow, someone is trying to do really ambitious things with this technology, just like I am. But then later, when she turned towards more commercialization and her work with symmetrical modern and dots and strokes, again, I had this feeling of, yes, like I want to also make something that is accessible to people and much more commercial and sort of fashion with a big F kind of thing. So I really feel like watching her progression through her work really spoke to me because it resonated with a lot of the limitations that I'd found with the technology in the field, but also this aspiration to take things to a more commercial level and more mass produced. Anya, I think you have a slightly different perspective coming from performative art and media art. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for me it was really like that she's coming really from performance art, and through her parents she also had like from theater and film and art by herself. Then another perspective where she moved out the last years, but I think she never lost her passion also for this. And I linked a lot with these, and in talks with her I could also relate in these topics with her. And what I really also liked a lot is when she was doing at the V2 evening at the e-textile workspaces, which Melissa and Pim initiated, like that she was doing this categorizing. So it was a start for her PhD research. And that was the first time that I was thinking of something like this. How can you categorize it? And I think it was very interesting. We had 2 evenings with her discussing the different works and already starting to think about, what kind of events where are the moments where e-textile is worn and used. And this was really very interesting, I think.
Yeah, those conversations that she initiated with the V2 e-textile workspace kind of blew my mind, because I personally wasn't really thinking about performative work with e-textiles, or even sort of displaying and showing my work, but she really made me think about that. And I think she probably influenced a lot of us to think about it in a more structured way and maybe more academic way. And at least for me, I wasn't really used to thinking about my work in that way. So it was a real treat to be able to talk with her about that.
Yes, it was also nice when during the same time, she came over to Amsterdam to my studio, and Meg and I, we were working on the lace sensor dresses together, and she joined us in the studio, and we were talking about the lace sensor dresses, but also about the individual works, which also was very interesting, because Meg and I, we are so different, but we were working really intensively and very nice with the lace sensor dresses together. And so that was also a nice moment. And looking back, that Valerie also was there then. And,
yeah, I agree. And we don't want to take too much time, but we just wanted to sort of conclude by saying that I think everybody here probably feels the same way about Valerie, that she wasn't just in this field as a professional, and these people aren't just her network. She really gave a lot of herself to this field. She was really authentic and really had a personal connection with so many people in the field. So that's why she'll really be missed.
Yes, and I will not forget the last dinners I had when she came here to Amsterdam. And, thank you, Valerie, for this.
Thank you.
May I jump in?
Yes, go for it.
You were talking, and then it resonates with what I wanted to talk as well. What you were saying is that I think the first time that I met Valerie was one of these nights at V2, the textile workspace that you mentioned, where she was sharing with us her research and also analyzing our works and in the framework that she developed. And I have a similar reaction than that Maggie just described it. That was, I mean, to look at wearables through the lens of performance and performance, not in the classical sense, but the performance of the material, right? This was the thing that she was looking at. And when you have that moments that you think like obvious, like makes so much sense. And like Meg, I was preoccupied, like in producing stuff, not much into reflect onto in the things that I was doing. And I think that to me was that moment when Valerie was explaining that I sort of related to my own work in a different way. And to me, this was a big contribution. I mean, I look at my work in really differently after that night. And it was really mind blowing. And I just wanted to say that.
Did you have anything else you were going to share in addition, or was that what you wanted to say?
Yeah, actually, this is what I wanted to say. I mean, I don't have anything to analyze about her work per se, but it's more about the impact that she had on my own work. And I think from that time on, yeah, I start to pay much more attention. You know, like right now, I am on this academic side. I'm doing my PhD, and part of it is thanks to Valerie. She helped me so much, write so many recommendations letters and proofreading texts and suggesting approaches and stuff. And yeah, I'm very grateful.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And I
Yeah, jump in.
As
Jump
I'm
in.
sort of part of this crew, coming from Holland and meeting Valerie around a similar time, I reckon. So I was reading a little bit on her PhD because I just kind of wanted to sort of get a feel for like getting back into like her head and hearing her talk. And like there was this one thing where she says, we can see how contemporary wearables are pushing the boundaries of performance through design, style, interaction, and the use of technology by infusing their works with questions of social interaction, emotions, poetry, agency, bodies, and politics. And I wanted to share that particular one because like that breadth was so incredibly Valerie to me. Like there was just so much about like how she was just interested in everything, you know. So yeah, she was quite established when I met her. She was invited to this sort of round table event for like sort of experts in the field of wearables in about 2010-ish. And so I knew her work from Podan, which was these 3 impossible dresses made of sky, moonlight, and sunlight, which she refers to as immaterial materials. And not only had she made this work, which had sort of gone quite wide in the wearables community, but she'd already done a bunch of exhibitions in Canada. And she started talking already about sort of making her own products in terms of kits. And yeah, it was just, she was so impressive to me. I was kind of, I guess sort of a baby in wearables in the sense that I think, I think she made Podan sort of in the same sort of time that I started making wearables, but I was so much behind on her and just being an artist, right? Like I think she'd already done, she was a painter, right? So she'd sort of done all this, like
she did performance art as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so she had like this whole career already by the time that I met her, and she'd sort of, she managed to put all that professionalism into like wearables, and so that was like super exciting to see. And yeah, so I was about to curate my first e-textiles exhibition at that point, and I met her together with Susie, who I hadn't met before that either. And it was just so incredible because it was so exciting to have all these people who were so knowledgeable about wearables and actually excited to talk about them. So yeah, that was sort of like, that was one of the big moments of like the sort of international wearables community developing sort of in my life. And I guess for me, Valerie is like, she was kind of an example of sort of almost closest to like, in some ways, to like how I've always approached the field. Because she just did everything, and I've always done everything, and part of the reason I was doing everything was probably because I saw her doing it. Like she was this great example on like how art can inspire curation, can inspire teaching, can inspire writing, and like how all these things sort of like work together in producing this thing called good work. But the good work isn't just in the art, it's in like all these different bits that come out of it, and a lot of them are sort of semi-invisible. You had to be there in the moment, which is kind of like a performance in itself, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think she was interesting also because she was so much an artist first and foremost, and that was sort of informing everything that she was doing. So yeah, I think one of the things interesting about Valerie is just like her practice and I'm not sure if she described it that way herself, but like it was sort of this specific shape of an artist with like avant-garde outlook, just interested in everything, comfortable with this ambiguity of like a field that isn't quite there yet, is like trying to come into existence. And she was just there sort of like teasing apart all of the bits of it, like the materials, the work itself, like all the artworks, like the practice of making them and the spaces in which they were made and received. Like she looked at every single aspect, which I thought was incredibly exciting. And
she was so excited about it. She had so much energy for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, like I just want to say what other people were saying before as well, that she was so generous with her time, so creative, and just so like attentive and excited, and such a great networker. And I think one thing that is just lovely about her was just, you know, like a lot of sort of art is about sort of performing and showing that you've made work, and like sharing that and like talking about the work. But like her interest was much broader, you know, like if you want to excuse me some sort of cheesy ways of saying this, but like she was sort of like a weaver of concepts, you know, and like weaving people together and places. And just by, she was traveling and she was meeting and she was talking, and all of these things were like in some ways, you know, like wearables were making her, but she was making wearables in such a massive way as well. So yeah, like as a sort of final thing to say, I think I was inspired by her sort of deep dedication and her fascination with and excitement about exploring what is fundamentally an artistic concept of sort of realizing impossible materials.
Nice. Great. Who wants to jump in now?
Okay, I'll jump in. So I'm Joanna Brzezowska, or Joey. And I first met Valerie when I came to Montreal from Boston. And I took a tenure track job at Concordia University, where she was already doing a little bit of teaching as sorry, my husband let the dogs out, so now they're barking. So she was already doing a little bit of like sessional teaching and mentoring, etc. And she was really well known in Montreal as an artist working with wearables and technology, but in a different way. So she basically worked with costuming. Like two of her really well-known pieces. One, she wore a big pink bunny costume. I don't know if you've ever seen that work. Another one is she actually dressed up as a Roman Catholic nun, because in Montreal there's a very long, kind of complicated and complex, problematic relationship with the Roman Catholic Church. And she would use basically any new technology. So at that time, it was very much the internet and kind of projecting herself and these personas that she would create virtually into other spaces, and engaging with the digital and the virtual, and using costuming, whether it was the pink bunny that was that work was called Advice Bunny, I think, where she would actually perform in public spaces and give people advice about their lives. The Roman Catholic Nun Project, I don't remember the details exactly, but it involved kind of confessional, and all of that work from her history really deals not just with the technology itself, but what all of you have alluded to already, kind of our souls and our needs and our desires, right? So it's not just the technology as a showcase, but it's a technology, whether it's the internet or color change textiles, where these technologies can actually allow us to investigate deep into our own souls, is the best way I can put it. So I think that is that background that she had with intermedia performance work really allowed her electronic textile work to be unique and multi-layered and really complex, and which I think is how it's affected all of you who have spoken so far. And then the other thing I want to say, that she was really exceptional at is community building. And this group here today is just one snapshot of that. But she made her own work, but that wasn't enough for her. She really cared about developing this community and fostering this field and helping this field blossom into something that would be really meaningful and impactful, and not just like a whole bunch of blinky hacks, right? Like, she really wanted to make something important by building community, by creating all of these interrogative kinds of sort of, I'm trying to think of the word, but based manifestations. And, she has such a long list of accomplishments, but beyond that, her dedication to building community, to curating, putting together shows, events, talking to people, bringing people together, somebody needs to pick up where she left off, because she injected so much into this field as a whole. So I'll stop there.
Brilliant. So great. Who wants to take over, pick up the torch from there?
I can jump in, if that's okay.
Go for it, Troy. Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, I know somebody does need to pick up where she left off, because it's so hard to see. I mean, I will put it out there. Valerie and I didn't actually agree on a lot of things inside of the e-textiles world, and yet she was so giving, and she connected me to so many people who saw it from my perspective. So she wasn't only capable of seeing the vision that she was trying to realize, she could see everybody else's vision inside of this too, and it was okay to have a different vision from hers. And she was totally good at connecting you to the people that you needed in your vision inside of this, and supporting the community as a whole. And I think it was always like that too. I first met Valerie at Ars Electronica in 2009, some great big MIT party where there was alcohol, and we were, there was it was the night that they had all of these dinosaur puppets wandering around, and there were fireworks and speedboats and explosions and full orchestras going on everywhere. And we ended up sitting at a picnic table outside this party talking about e-textiles for half the evening, and this very disparate vision of it. But where was it happening? Who was doing what? Where in the world we could get to find the right people? And it's the first I had heard about what was going on in the Netherlands at that point. I was in Italy, down in the Florence scene, doing weird woven or knitted textiles. So it was really great to see other people out in the world doing this, and to meet somebody as magical as Valerie, who had these projects that really showed the possibility of it, was really, really crazy. But I think it wasn't until years later that I really realized the magic there. I was in Montreal this year, and she took me to Papier, the arts show, and the great big Montreal Arts Festival, and she was very much in the art scene. We stopped at every single booth inside of this place. It took 4 hours to get through one building, but it was great. It wasn't boring at all. Not only was she finding all of her friends and being able to talk about art, she found somebody in every booth that had a way of looking at the world that I was trying to look at. And I had amazing conversations with all of her friends that were in the art world as well. And the way she could span things was just amazing. And get two people doing disparate things, talking about something similar and interesting, was amazing. It would be a little bit later, she would actually help me write the first draft of my thesis, and it hadn't been too long since she'd finished hers. But me coming from an entirely different perspective, she helped ground it in fashion a lot, because I was at a school that wasn't the most fashion school. So it wasn't just the technology, she had the art and the fashion there as well, and helped me not to lose that inside of writing my own thesis, which was amazing given how hard a thesis can be, and that she was just coming out of hers. It was wild to have somebody that could jump right back into that mess so quickly and actually try to make some sense of what was going on there. I think it was even later than that, though. It was at Kai that I really saw how amazing she really was. big conference, lots of people, all kinds of craziness happening and going around. It's the time of day in Europe. My kids are going to bed. I have to go make a phone call, and I walk out there and just to find a quiet spot, and I find Valerie sitting there having a conference call with one of her students, helping them through a problem, and it was just amazing to see her. She's surrounded by all these people from all around the world, and where was she in that moment? She was helping somebody very local to her get something done that needed to be done that was important there. So her ability to really zoom in and zoom out was really the amazing part, because she could go so incredibly local and entirely global 2 seconds later and bring everybody along with her, no matter which crowd they came from, for her in that moment. Yeah, and she always had really great shoes. That was the other part I liked about her, is that you never saw Valerie wearing a bad pair of shoes ever. They were always super cool, super interesting. They were always high heels, and it was always just splendid to see what she'd be wearing next. So from the fashion front, she was just thrilling. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to follow in her footsteps. I've taken over her role in Amsterdam, and it's not an easy. Cannot fill those shoes at all. They're way too fabulous for me. At the same time, we're working really hard. I think it's been really good. One of the things I put in my professorial plan was that I really wanted to have an artist in residency that really kind of followed up on the dream of Valerie and what she was doing. And when I took it to my Dean Frank Crescent, and said, hey, in 3 years I want to have these artists in residencies, because this is what Valerie would have wanted. He's like, no, we're going to do it right now. And so we launched our first artist in residency Monday.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then so we're really excited to get some people from around the world here and to keep part of what you had started going at the university.
Definitely share that around for sure.
Yeah, I will put the next one out there.
Who wants to go next? That was amazing. All of them have been amazing. So much love for Valerie. And some tears, I see. Who wants to go next? Anyone?
I can go if you guys want.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I came in a little bit. I'm the crying one here.
No worries.
See all of your faces, and it's amazing that after this, she's bringing everybody together. The only one that I've not met is Lucy Leons. I like your cat. I saw a cat walking in front of your screen. I think quality definitely went too fast, and hearing all these stories about her, really stimulating the community and all of that stuff is just so precious. Sort of, I think she had this really weird kind of curiosity in her, which I really liked. There was always some kind of adventure when you went with Valerie, or when you did something, when you collaborated with her, there was always this little rascal that she steered in people. She's just such a beautiful person, and all of her works. I think I met her myself in 2011. That was, I think, at V2, where I met Melissa, where I met Anya. I think Ricardo I met a little bit later. Joey, you I met later. Meg I met at the V2, the textiles workspace with Melissa, and she was always such an she had the courage, she was bubbly, she was always so positive and optimistic. Also when I was collaborating with her on stuff, she was always like, we figure it out, and all of that. And I think that's really inspired, that positive and that very curious kind of mentality of her, which I always really loved, I think also, I don't know if you guys already spoke about it. I think I want to thank Camilla for setting this up, and also Francesca for, I don't know if you guys already seen it, if the link has been shared of the exhibition.
Not yet. I want to tweak it, but you can talk about it.
Okay, it looks really good. So that's super cool. That could be formed online. We're definitely also looking for something in the in the real space, maybe later on. I'm super interested in Joey, the pink bunny, the advice bunny, and the religious piece, the confessional piece. if you have more information on that, or just the story, if you have anything like that, yeah, we're collecting experiences. So I got already like a lot of photos from you guys all, yeah, from Ricardo, Melissa, and everybody. Yeah, definitely, if there's other pieces that you guys know, or just the stories, just a line, a phrase, or something about that work or that you did, yeah, definitely, yeah, give it to us. Like, we're collecting all of those things.
Yeah, I want to finish it and put some of the things that you've already collected and look into this gallery. But yeah, it'd be great if we can. Be great if we could get some of those early crazy pieces and do something in person somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that definitely her soul and her mindset and her sisterhood really lives on. So yeah, there was a few things that I wanted to say here.
Great. Who wants to follow up from that? Maybe Francesca. Did you want to have a moment?
Yeah, I was getting super emotional. That's why I keep switching the video off. Sorry. So, you know, I wanted to tell you like some stories, because basically, I mean, with Valerie, we were really corresponding, I realized, since 2009. And then, of course, we met at various conferences. And I remember a conference like 4 years ago in Montreal. And basically, like, she just like messaged me and she said, oh, tomorrow morning, let's go and have breakfast. And we went to a really nice diner style place, and we had pancakes. And I mean, I really don't like waking up early, but this was so much fun to be with. That we're just like, yeah, I'm gonna wake up like at 6:30 so we can go have breakfast outside the hotel right before the conference starts. And I mean, we had such a great time. We just really wanted to keep chatting and didn't want to go back into this like crowded room. And the thing that was actually really lovely is that after we were done with breakfast, she really wanted to give me like a mini guided tour on Montreal. And so she drove her car all the way up to the, you know, that hill where you can have a really nice panoramic view. And the view basically was completely clouded over because the weather was dreadful. And she was so sorry about that. I was like, oh, you know, I really love it. And it's just like time hanging out together. We just keep chatting. I mean, you can bring me whatever. There are clouds and rain, I don't mind, because I mean, it's just like she had such a awesome sunny personality. So I just thought it was just really lovely that someone would take time off her day, because I mean, she was working still with the sick, so she had to actually go to the office. So I thought it was just really nice that she took the time to hang out. And then as well, like last year at the conference in New York, that was the last time we saw each other. And we did the same thing. We were just like with a group of friends like us that we always meet at conferences, and we just say, let's just go have like coffee together. Let's just go continue chatting, have go like a dinner. And I was like, you know, it's like when people are not just people that work in your field, but then they become your friends, and you just want to, you basically go into a conference is an excuse. So you get to hang out with your friends and just do a full proper catch up. And it's not like one of those catch ups like you feel really awkward when you don't see people for a long time. You just keep chatting again from where you started and when you left off the previous time, like if no time had elapsed at all, with that kind of confidence and like friendliness. So I thought it was just a really, really lovely time that I remember her for. And then like you guys invited me to sort of create these pieces for the exhibit. And actually I had really for the first time the chance to go through Valerie's work. And I was like reconstructing the 3D for the symmetrical modern collection, and I really loved the design. I mean, it was such a pleasure. I think you don't really get the chance often to really take a trip down a designer's mind. And I thought, wow, this is such a great privilege that I actually got to see those files and really appreciate not only the fact that she was putting so much attention to detail, even if the silhouettes were like really modern and sleek, but also she was taking so much paying so much attention to the graphics, to those sort of like really painterly patterns that would go across the different pieces of the pattern. So that when you put it together, how is it going to match? And so I was sort of like really enamored with the designs. I was like, wow, this is like really beautiful to see how a person can create something that is really forceful at once, but also very delicate, like sort of almost very sweet, but at the same time very strong. And I thought it was just like really beautiful to get to see these designs up close and learn more about Valerie through actually understanding how she worked on her own designs. And I thought it was just really beautiful. And then they had this really big problem. I didn't know how to complete the look, and I was looking at all the photos of how Valerie used to dress, and she was always very chic. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna dress them sort of like making my mini Valerie's army. And I mean, I was just like, oh, I hope it would please her, because maybe it's just a little gift for the lovely time that we spent together. So thank you guys for the opportunity.
And I'm finishing that off, and I'll put the link available everywhere once I've tweaked it a little bit. I was not entirely happy with the software in the way it was putting things together, but you will get to see Francesca's creations of Valerie's work very soon. And they're really cool.
I felt really such a great privilege. I'm really honored.
Thank you. Fabulous. Leanne, did you want to say something? I think you're with us here, yeah?
Yeah. I think it makes sense to just go next. First of all, I wanna thank you, and I kind of feel that I'm not really entitled to be speaking here because I didn't know Valerie that well. I think we met only briefly on about 3 or 4 occasions, but nonetheless, she really made an impression, I should say. I think the first time we met was in 2013, and I had really just that week heard that I got funding to do a PhD on the integration of fashion and technology here in the Netherlands at Radboud University. And I was attending a talk that she was giving during a masterclass on fashion at I don't think it even exists anymore, but correct me if I'm wrong, the Museum of the Moving Image here in the Netherlands, in Breda, it used to be. And she was talking about the history of wearables and really historically grounding, first of all, the entire development that was going on in the fashion industry, trying to look at this marriage between fashion and technology from a historical perspective, and that was something that I already find very intriguing. But also her completely interdisciplinary approach, I thought that was very inspiring and maybe also very intimidating, because it sounded like she knew everything and had read most of the things that I was still about to read. And I remember taking a lot of notes, but also wondering, so why am I even going to do a PhD on this if she's already doing one? So what am I actually about to do? But at the same time, it felt like I now finally realized exactly how lucky I was to be able to do a PhD in this field and to meet many inspiring people like herself. So that's really the overall feeling that I had, that I was very lucky to be there in that room at that moment listening to her. And she was also among the first scholars I actually encountered when I started reading up on the topic. And whenever I speak to someone, I remember talking to Melissa. I think we had a Skype meeting once, to Anouk, also when speaking to Ricardo. All of them mentioned Valerie somehow, and I hadn't met her yet at that point. So it was like, okay, I have to see her sometime and have a good talk about how to deal with this from an academic perspective. And that was also where she made me feel no longer kind of the odd one out in the field, because I'm not a practitioner. I don't have a background in fashion design or engineering or whatever. I've never done anything practical, if you'd like to call it that. And so I felt like, again, like, okay, so what do I have to say? Where can I find my voice in this field? And she just made me feel very at ease about this, and her very academic approach actually helped me to realize that can definitely add something.
To Melissa, I think we had a Skype meeting once to Anouk, also when speaking to Ricardo, all
there is
somehow, and I hadn't met her yet at that point.
Horrible
so it was
to hear
like...
myself again.
Yeah, maybe everyone turn off their mics for
mute. Please mute. I hate listening back to my own voice. Thanks. So she made me realize, or at least she gave me the impression that she thought there was something to be added also from a theoretical, conceptual, academic perspective maybe even philosophical perspective to the field. So that was lovely, and a boost to my confidence as a scholar and researcher in the field. And her work, and also especially her ambitions and vibrant personality have really remained a very valuable source of inspiration ever since, because indeed it always felt like she would be everywhere all the time. She would also always somehow show up somewhere, whether it was a conference or an exhibition, or I don't know. I think the last time we met in person was in Arnhem during the Fashion Biennale. I think it was 2018, and then she was supposed to be in my PhD defense committee on September 6, 2018. But then unfortunately, a week before that, she contacted us saying, I'm sorry, I can't make it because of the circumstances. And that was really, that was awful, because I was looking forward to her perspective on my research. I really wanted to hear all of her probably very critical but nonetheless very constructive questions about my work and ideas. And I also felt like she was an important kind of pillar. Her theoretical work and thinking and PhD were an important pillar underneath my entire PhD project. So we really missed her that day, even though we didn't at that point really know what was going on. And so I feel so sorry for that we never actually got to discuss this and how important her work and especially her PhD has been for mine. So I remember one of the things that she said during that very first time I met her in 2013, that she said that she hoped that her research would somehow inspire new scholarship, and that it would also help others to think along these intersections of technology, the body and fashion, which is really what she was focusing on. And I can only say from personal experience that this is exactly what she's done, and that her hard work and dedications have really inspired the entire field and me in person very much so as well. So that's, I guess, what I wanted to say. And there was one thing that really made me laugh. I read in this reader that we got during that masterclass in 2013 that she said, I must warn you, I'm not a clairvoyant. But when I now look at her legacy and her work, that it in fact does possess some kind of prophetic quality of envisioning how technology will affect the fashion body in past, present, and future. So I thought it was funny that she wrote that. I'm not a clairvoyant, though it now feels like she may have been. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to add.
Can you just tell us what she was not a clairvoyant about?
Yeah, I think she was quite clairvoyant about how technology could turn fashion into something that it hadn't done to and with us before, so that it helped us to really focus on how technology helps garments to actually do what we want them to do, to protect us, to hide us, conceal us, to extend us and our thoughts, and so that it's a very thought-provoking way of extending the possibilities of what it means to be a garment and what it means to wear a garment, and that's, I think she has been a visionary in that respect. So I would now actually have to correct her and say that you're pretty much a clairvoyant, Valerie, and thank you for that. And I'm sorry that we have had to get to this point to actually realize that.
Now I'm starting to tear up. That's great, beautiful. Thank you. Wow. So we have other people in here that I don't even know very well. So perhaps whoever who hasn't spoken could speak, or maybe we've got now Doug joining us, and we've also got a statement, I think, from Susie. Maybe Doug, you want to say something? Yeah. Sorry, Doug, I think you're muted. I don't know how to unmute you. Do you see where to unmute yourself at the bottom there? There's a...
But somebody's...
There you are.
Hold on one second. Hello.
And thank you.
There we go.
We still got the echo there.
Yeah, so one of the things about this, of course, is that I knew Valerie to a certain extent, and from a very professional standpoint, And I really wanted to work with her on a book project because I still believe that in the context of wearable technology, there hasn't been enough written about it. And she had a very approachable voice, and a voice that I felt would find a wider audience because of the way she talked about things. Where do you proceed from this? I mean, I would love for there to be some sort of discussion or some sort of publication around the work that she was doing, or even more so around the idea of wearable technology writ large. So any input from the community here in this conversation would be great. I apologize for the darkness, but I'm in Sweden right now, so.
Yeah. Does anybody? Oh, can you hear me? Does anybody want to respond to Doug?
I wanted to say, Doug, I always thought it was amazing how much Valerie really loved you. I can remember being the first time I met you, Doug. Valerie was like, we were at Kai and we were like going for coffee or something. She was like, wait, you have to meet Doug, and told me all about you for 5 minutes as we walked over to find you. And it was, her eyes lit up whenever she talked about you. And it was always really, magic to see her when she thought you had to, when she knew that you had to meet that person. She just knew.
Well, she didn't love me, or she liked my vast enthusiasm for the work she was doing, and the vast enthusiasm that I have for this idea of wearable technologies. Some of you may know that I was previously married to Susan Kozel, who was involved in this field. But I was also at MIT, and I used to go to the MIT Media Lab fashion shows, which were bullshit. But at the same time, I appreciated the idea behind it, and I will still, to this day, say this is an area that is underexplored, and it needs to have more books out there that talk about this. And so.
I know, Doug, you've been talking about this for like 20 years. I remember there was like a SIGGRAPH in LA. Oh my God, almost 20 years ago, where you already were talking about this. Actually, I think that's when you met Susan.
20 years ago is about right. And I'm still working. It's still to a certain extent, it's like design. So I'm working on a number of design lists and talking about design and trying to develop design as a discipline, the way you would think of architecture. And it's tough. I mean, to a certain extent, you're working at, say, how do we talk about this outside of a practice-based discipline? Mm-hmm. And it's been hard. But at the same time, I mean, one of the things that I really was, and in Valerie and I had a very professional relationship. It was all about just, we had some great dinners and some great drinks and some great conversations together. But it was always about how do we convey this information to a wider audience. And Joanna, I mean, to a certain extent, Joanna, I have had that same conversation. How do we bring this to a wider audience?
Yeah, great. Well, you've put the gauntlet out there, I guess, that people not only have to start to think about how to widen that conversation, but how can we also make sure Valerie's voice is still in there, and yes. Is I don't know, framing it or something. Fab, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to throw in some points or additional comments to this conversation? We're coming up to almost an hour, so I'm leaving it sort of in your hands if you want to say something. I have a note from oh yes, Lucy. I didn't know Lucy, so I didn't know what to say. So perhaps Lucy can say something. Did you want to say something, Lucy?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Right. So maybe I'm a bit of a fraud because I'm not in wearables whatsoever.
That's good.
And
Yeah,
so I knew Valerie in a very different way, maybe. And we met in 2010 when I was a mere postdoc at the University of Copenhagen, and I was running a conference there that she actually didn't get into, but she really wanted to come. So I said she could come, and we became really good friends, and we just kept meeting frequently. So I kind of got to know her through academic research, that side. I'm a fine artist, and but I got to know her through sort of research methodologies and just liking each other and hanging out in Copenhagen a lot. And then we stayed in touch via what seems like good old-fashioned Skype now, where for over the years. And then I in 2016, I got a residency at McGill and at the medical faculty there, and I needed somewhere to stay. So I moved in with Valerie for a few months, and we spent every evening together and got to know each other very well. And yeah, it was great getting to know her, but also her work, but from a research, artistic, creative side rather than the technology and wearable side, which isn't in my field whatsoever. But I would go to talks that she was giving. She would come and see my talks at McGill. I would babysit Kai quite a lot, so I got to know her son and her ex, and I got to know that sort of social side of Valerie, and we would stay up drinking a lot late at night and talk a lot. And yes, whoever said she has fabulous shoes, wow, she has a lot of fabulous shoes, because I've seen her wardrobe, so I know how many she has. And she was just hilarious, but she was also very complicated, and there was a lot to Valerie that she would keep very private, but she was a very honest in her work and passionate about her friends and colleagues. And I then went back to McGill the following year, the following fall, and stayed with her. And I was lucky enough to go to her PhD viva, so her defense. So I went to her defense, which was quite thrilling and quite passionate, but also very professional. And what struck me when she was talking about her work in her defense in academic terms was she actually didn't really see herself in wearables tech as such, but more as a performance, creative, fine artist who sort of happened to see where technology could take all this. And she sort of saw herself very much in that light. And it was interesting, after she did that, I think everything had built up to, obviously when you do your viva, you know, everything builds up to that, you're so invested in it. And afterwards, it was really obvious how much she kind of missed the fine art side, and how much her passion for the frivolity of performance and how much that mattered to her as well. I was working in the Rollick a couple of times over in the University of Amsterdam, and unfortunately didn't coordinate my timing well enough to meet up with her. So sadly, we only then were able to stay in touch via Messenger and email and Skype. So it came as quite a shock when she died quite suddenly. It was quite a shock for me. So I do miss her terribly, because I feel like when it gets to autumn, I should be over in Montreal staying with her in her house and with her family. So that's kind of how I know Valerie. Also, I do visual note taking, so I drew her a lot, because I'd go to her talks And I drew her viva. I drew her presentation at her viva. So I have lots of little drawings of Valerie in my notebooks.
Oh, we should get some of those for a Nooks board. That sounds so great.
Just tell me where to send them. I don't know where to send them. If you could let me know on the WhatsApp group. I'll send whatever.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. That's a really nice story. I guess, is there anyone else who wants to say anything before we turn off? I suppose I should say something as well. But I feel, does everyone have their, the microphones off? Is that my feedback or is that someone else's feedback? Yes, in the chat, Lucy, Anouk has put something in there for her email, so you can send her something there. Great. So I'll just say something